City Hills, Missouri, a small town with a big heart, filled with cozy cafes and charming little spots for meetings. In the heart of the town stands Midtown Bliss, where Lily and Mae both worked. Lily, 29, was confident, ambitious, and always the life of the party, able to light up any room with her energy. She had grown up in City Hills and still wasn't quite sure what her next move in life would be, even though she had already checked off many of society's success markers. Mae, on the other hand, was 27, reserved, and more introspective. She was known for being a deep thinker, someone who'd always carefully consider her words before speaking. People loved her for her empathy and for being a great listener, but Mae often found herself locked in a battle with her own emotions, unable to fully connect with the world around her. The two had met in college, but only a couple of years ago had they started working together. Their friendship, which had blossomed in their younger years, was now tested by the complexities of their adult lives. Lily had been in a committed relationship with John, a 32-year-old successful architect, for a few years. While everything seemed picture-perfect from the outside, things between them weren't as simple as they appeared. Mae, typically cautious when it came to men, had recently started a relationship with Taylor, a 30-year-old self-made entrepreneur. Their relationship was carefree on the surface, but behind it, there were numerous secrets and hidden struggles. One Tuesday afternoon at Midtown Bliss, the usual hum of quiet conversation filled the air. Lily and Mae were cleaning up after the lunchtime rush. Mae was polishing the counter while Lily prepared drinks for a few lingering customers. The warm smell of fresh coffee lingered in the air as the golden light of late afternoon streamed through the windows. They often found themselves talking during these quieter moments, sharing little bits of their lives, secrets, and thoughts. "So, how's John?" Mae asked, wiping down the table with a cloth. Lily hesitated for a moment before answering. "He's good. But lately, it's been different. I don't know. I feel like we've been drifting." Mae looked up from her work, concern creeping into her expression. "What do you mean?" Lily leaned on the counter, looking out the window. "It's like we're living in two separate worlds. We don't talk like we used to. We don't even have time to go out and do fun things anymore. It's all just routines. I think he's too focused on work, and I've been trying to be understanding, but I miss him, you know?" Mae nodded, her gaze softening. She knew Lily had always wanted a relationship where both partners were equally invested, but she also understood the pressures that came with ambition. Still, she couldn't help but wonder, was this just a rough patch, or was there something deeper between Lily and John that neither of them had addressed? "I get it," Mae said quietly. "Taylor's been busy too. We don't talk as much as we used to. But when we do, it feels like everything's fine, until I find out things I didn't know." Lily raised an eyebrow. "What do you mean?" Mae hesitated, lowering her gaze as she wiped the counter. "There are times when he says one thing but it doesn't line up with his actions. He's been distant lately. There are little things that don't add up, and I feel like I'm just not in the loop." Lily sighed, her mind swirling with her own doubts. "That's the thing about relationships, isn't it? You think you know everything about someone, but then something shifts, and you're left wondering who they really are." Mae nodded again, the weight of her own relationship's cracks heavy on her heart. "Exactly. It's hard. But I don't want to give up on it just yet. I still care about him, you know?" Lily's voice softened as she stepped closer to Mae. "I get that. But maybe it's okay to be honest with yourself. Sometimes, the hardest part is accepting that someone you love might not be who you thought they were. Or maybe it's you who's changing and you need to figure out what you want." Mae glanced up at Lily, feeling both comforted and unsettled by her words. They had always been there for each other, offering guidance and support in the toughest of times. But now, as they both faced similar struggles, the tension between them felt different. It was almost as if they were both at a crossroads, unsure of where the path ahead would take them. Later that week, the atmosphere at Midtown Bliss became even more tense. Lily couldn't shake off the feeling that something was off with John, and Mae was beginning to have doubts about Taylor. Then, one night, things came to a head in a way neither of them could have predicted. It was Thursday evening, and Mae had invited Lily to join her for a drink at a nearby bar after their shift. They were both in desperate need of a break. The small bar was dimly lit, the kind of place that felt like a secret hideaway. The kind of place where people came to share their worries or escape for just a little while. As they sipped on their drinks, the conversation drifted from light-hearted chatter to deeper, more personal topics. Lily's phone buzzed with a text from John, and she instinctively reached for it. The message read, "Can we talk? There's something I need to tell you." Lily's heart skipped a beat. "Oh no," she muttered, her hand trembling as she set the phone down on the table. Mae noticed immediately, sensing the sudden shift in the air. "What's wrong?" Mae asked, her voice soft. Lily exhaled slowly. "I don't know, Mae. I don't know. But I think he's hiding something." Before Mae could respond, her own phone buzzed. It was a message from Taylor. "I need to talk. Meet me at my place later." Mae's heart sank. It felt like the universe was conspiring to bring their doubts to the surface. Both of them stared at their phones, their minds racing. They had each been avoiding their own reality for so long, but now it seemed unavoidable. Something had to give. "Do you think this is it?" Mae asked, her voice barely a whisper. Lily looked at her friend, her eyes filled with uncertainty. "I don't know. But it feels like everything is unraveling." The weight of the moment hung between them, the silence louder than any words. The next steps in their relationships, and possibly in their friendship, loomed large in the distance. The following days seemed to drag on for both Lily and Mae. Both women could hardly shake the overwhelming feeling that something was about to change, something big. They spent their days going through the motions at Midtown Bliss, but the cafe felt less like a sanctuary and more like a place to hide. Their minds were consumed with questions, their hearts heavy with the weight of the uncertainty that now defined their relationships. John had been distant with Lily since that night. The message he sent her still lingered in her mind. "Can we talk? There's something I need to tell you." She had tried calling him a few times, but his responses were always vague. It was as if he were purposely keeping her at arm's length. Meanwhile, Mae was in a similar boat. Taylor's message had left her feeling uneasy, and though she had agreed to meet him, she wasn't sure what kind of conversation awaited her. It was like they were both waiting for a storm to break, but neither of them could predict when it would hit. One Friday afternoon, when the cafe was quieter than usual, Lily pulled Mae aside after their shift ended. The two women sat at one of the corner tables, cups of coffee in front of them, but neither of them really cared about drinking. "I'm scared, Mae," Lily said, her voice small and trembling. "I don't know if I want to hear what John has to say, but I also can't keep avoiding it." Mae nodded sympathetically. "I get it. I think I'm in the same place with Taylor. What if everything we've been holding on to just isn't there anymore?" Lily met Mae's eyes, searching for some kind of answer, but Mae didn't have one. They both knew the pain of facing the truth, but neither of them knew how to handle it. As the evening approached, they both made plans to meet with their partners. It was a surreal moment, both of them trying to prepare themselves for something that had been lurking in the back of their minds for weeks. At Lily's apartment later that night, John finally arrived. His usual confident demeanor had been replaced with an unease that made Lily's stomach churn. The moment he stepped inside, she could tell that something was different. "Lily," he said, avoiding her gaze. "I've been thinking a lot, and I don't know how to say this, but there's been someone else. I never meant for it to happen, but it did." Lily's world seemed to crash in that moment. She had suspected it, but hearing it out loud hit her like a wave, knocking the air out of her lungs. "What do you mean? What does that even mean?" Her voice trembled, anger and hurt bubbling to the surface. "I didn't want to hurt you. I didn't know how to tell you, but I think you deserve the truth. It's been going on for a while now," John confessed, guilt painting his face. The room felt suffocating, and Lily took a step back, trying to process the gravity of his words. "So, all this time, while I've been worrying about us, you've been with someone else?" John looked down, his face full of regret. "Yes. I'm sorry, Lily. I never wanted to betray you, but I couldn't hide it anymore." Lily could barely hear him over the deafening silence in her mind. She had always known that things weren't perfect, but she had never imagined that John could betray her in such a way. The realization that her entire relationship had been a lie was too much to bear. Meanwhile, across town, Mae was at Taylor's apartment, her heart racing in her chest. She had tried to prepare herself for this moment, but nothing could have prepared her for what she was about to hear. Taylor opened the door, a strained smile on his face, but Mae could see the tension in his posture. It was as if he knew the moment had come, and there was no turning back. "Mae," he said softly, stepping aside to let her in. "I'm glad you came." "I don't think I'm glad, Taylor," she replied, her voice sharper than she intended. "I've been feeling like something's wrong for a while, and now you want to talk." Taylor led her to the living room, and as they sat down, Mae noticed the way his hands fidgeted, unable to stay still. It made her heart sink even further. "I've been seeing someone else," Taylor admitted, his voice barely above a whisper. "It started a few months ago. I never meant for it to happen, but I got involved with someone, and I can't just undo it." Mae felt the blood drain from her face. It was as if the world had stopped turning. "You what?" Her voice cracked with disbelief. "I'm sorry, Mae," he said, his eyes pleading. "I never wanted to hurt you. I've been struggling with it, but I can't lie to you anymore." Her hands clenched into fists at her sides, and she could feel the tears threatening to spill. She had always thought she was strong, but now everything seemed to be crumbling around her. The weight of the confessions was overwhelming. For both Lily and Mae, it was as if the ground had shifted beneath their feet, and they were struggling to stay upright. The world they had built with their partners had been shattered in mere moments, and neither woman knew how to process the betrayal that now hung in the air like a heavy fog. At Lily's apartment, the conversation with John continued, but it was no longer a conversation, it was a storm of words, accusations, and hurt. Lily couldn't hold back her tears, her anger burning hot against the cold reality of John's betrayal. "So, that's it?" Lily demanded, her voice rising. "You're just going to walk away from everything we've built? Everything we've shared? You think this is the right thing to do?" John sighed, his expression tormented. "Lily, I never wanted to hurt you. You have to understand, it wasn't something I planned. It just happened. I didn't want this." "But you still made the choice, John," Lily shot back, her voice trembling with emotion. "You still made the choice to betray me. And now you expect me to just let it go? How can I ever trust you again?" John was silent, his eyes filled with regret, but the damage was done. There was no taking back what had already been said. The trust between them had been broken beyond repair, and Lily could feel that truth sinking deep into her bones. As the hours passed, Lily's thoughts became a whirlwind. She felt lost, unsure of what to do next. The life she had envisioned for herself had been turned upside down in an instant. But as much as she felt devastated, she knew she couldn't keep holding on to something that wasn't real anymore. "I need you to leave, John," she finally said, her voice steady despite the chaos inside her. "I can't do this. I need to figure things out on my own." John didn't argue. He simply nodded, his face filled with sorrow, before turning and walking out the door. As the sound of his footsteps faded into the distance, Lily collapsed onto the couch, her tears flowing freely. She had been holding on to a version of her life that no longer existed, and now she had to face the truth. John was gone, and with him, everything she thought she knew about love and trust. Meanwhile, Mae sat in stunned silence across from Taylor. Her mind was racing, trying to process his confession. She had always believed their relationship was solid, built on mutual respect and understanding. But now, in the face of his betrayal, all of those beliefs seemed so fragile. "I don't know what to say, Taylor," Mae whispered, her heart aching with the weight of his words. "How could you do this to me? To us?" Taylor looked down, unable to meet her gaze. "I never meant for it to happen, Mae. It just did. And now I'm trapped in something I can't get out of." Mae's chest tightened, the pain almost unbearable. She had always been the strong one, the one who held everything together. But now, she felt completely undone. The person she had trusted the most had betrayed her in the worst way possible. "What happens now?" Mae asked quietly, her voice breaking. "What do we do? What do I do?" Taylor shook his head, his eyes filled with regret. "I don't know. I never thought it would come to this. Mae's hands trembled as she stood up, the urge to leave the apartment overwhelming her. She couldn't stay there, not with him, not after what he had done. As much as she loved him, the trust had been shattered, and Mae knew that some things couldn't be repaired. "I can't be here with you right now," Mae said, her voice steady despite the tears threatening to spill. "I need space to think. I need to figure out what's next for me." Taylor didn't stop her as she walked toward the door. He knew he had lost her, but he didn't know how to fix it. And maybe, deep down, he wasn't sure if he even could. The next morning, Lily and Mae found themselves at Midtown Bliss, both women seeking comfort in the familiarity of their shared space. The cafe, however, no longer felt like a sanctuary, it felt like a reminder of everything they had lost. Lily arrived first, sitting at a corner table, staring absently out the window. She had barely slept the night before, her mind replaying every moment of her confrontation with John. She couldn't stop thinking about the life they had shared, the dreams they had talked about. Now, it all felt like a cruel joke. Mae arrived a little later, her face pale, her eyes red from lack of sleep. She had barely spoken to Taylor since their conversation the night before, and the silence between them felt like a painful void. Sitting across from each other, neither woman knew where to begin. But somehow, the silence between them felt comforting, like they didn't need words to understand what the other was going through. Lily took a deep breath, finally breaking the silence. "I don't know what to do, Mae. Everything I thought I knew is gone. I don't even know who I am anymore without him." Mae looked at her friend, her expression softening. "I know the feeling. It's like everything has been turned upside down. I don't even recognize the person I thought Taylor was." The two women sat together, each lost in their own thoughts, but somehow finding solace in the shared experience of their pain. The air inside Midtown Bliss was thick with unspoken words, each woman lost in her own thoughts. It was as if the cafe, usually a place of comfort and light-hearted conversations, had transformed into a silent arena for emotional battles. The deep sadness was palpable, yet neither Lily nor Mae spoke for a while, each trying to make sense of the turmoil in their hearts. Lily stared into her cup of coffee, the steam rising like the chaos in her mind. Mae's eyes were fixed on her hands, still trembling from the weight of her own heartbreak. For a moment, they sat in perfect quiet, not because they didn't want to speak, but because they didn't know how to start. Finally, Lily broke the silence. "How do you move on from something like this, Mae? How do you just let go of someone who you thought would always be there?" Mae hesitated. She had no answers, no comforting words, but she understood the ache in Lily's voice. "I don't know. I don't think you can just move on, not right away. But maybe that's okay. Maybe we have to feel everything, all the pain, before we can even think about moving forward." Lily wiped a tear from her cheek. "I keep thinking I should have known, Mae. I should have seen the signs, but I didn't. I feel like such a fool." "You're not a fool, Lily," Mae said, her voice firm. "None of this is your fault. People make choices, and sometimes those choices hurt us. But that's on them, not us." Lily nodded slowly, her chest tightening with emotion. It was hard to accept that it wasn't her fault, but Mae's words brought a tiny sliver of peace. It wasn't her fault. It wasn't because she wasn't enough or didn't love John enough. It was because he made a decision that had nothing to do with her. "I just feel so lost," Lily admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. "I thought I had everything figured out. But now, it's like I'm standing on the edge of something I don't recognize." Mae reached across the table, taking her friend's hand in hers. "I'm here for you, Lily. We'll figure this out together. You're not alone." The simple gesture was a lifeline. In that moment, Lily realized that while she had lost John, she still had Mae. And that, perhaps, was the one constant she could hold on to. But Mae's words also sparked something in her. The thought that maybe it was time for her to figure out what was next for herself, something beyond the shadow of her past relationship. Could she really move forward, even if it felt impossible? Could she reclaim the pieces of herself that had been lost in the years of her marriage? "I don't know what comes next," Lily said, looking into Mae's eyes. "But I'm ready to find out." Mae smiled, a faint glimmer of hope shining through her exhaustion. "We'll take it one step at a time, together. Whatever happens, we've got each other. As the day wore on, the two women sat in the cafe, not speaking much more, but sharing the kind of comfort that only comes from truly understanding one another's pain. The world outside continued to move, but inside Midtown Bliss, time seemed to stand still, allowing both of them the space to begin processing their emotions. Hours later, the sun began to set, casting a golden glow over the city outside the cafe window. The once heavy atmosphere had lifted slightly, replaced with a shared sense of quiet determination. They didn't have all the answers, but the storm that had consumed them for so long was starting to settle. There was still so much work to do, so much healing to embrace, but for the first time in what felt like forever, both women felt like they had a glimmer of hope. One day at a time, Lily murmured, more to herself than to Mae. It was a small step, but it was a step in the right direction.